Missing the Teens is a story of
love and war,
youth and dreadful old age,
rivalry,
money, wigs, marmalade.
It's a romance.
I don't bloody know what the film's about.
Oh, how unfortunate a poor girl am I. I dare not tell my secrets to anybody. And if I don't, I'm undone. Oh. Hey-ho.
The film is about a young lady called Miss Biddy Bellair. And her aunt has arranged a betrothal to this much older man called Sir Simon.
Biddy! Where have you been, Biddy?
He's an ex-military man, but he's a terrible old lech in his old age, and he has a penchant for lovely young slips of girls, of whom Miss Biddy is one.
And she's not interested at all.
She meets a young chap who, at the time, he decides to call himself Rhodophil.
Why Rhodophil?
You may not have noticed, Bob, that since her arrival here, she has done only two things. Shot timid glances in your direction and had her nose firmly planted in marriage a la mode.
Rhodophil it is. When he first meets Biddy, there's kind of a big pause as he's sucked into her world and is absolutely slayed by this beautiful look that's coming back at him.
The captain then gets sent off to war.
He says, can I write to you? And she says, no, you best not. Which clearly means, yes, absolutely write to me. So she's writing all these letters, confessing her love and, you know, and all that sort of stuff, and getting nothing back. So she's absolutely distraught.
There's something in that little heart of yours, and we'll burst it at last if you don't give it vent.
What would you have me tell you, Tag?
You are afraid I'll betray you, but I may do you some service you little think of.
It is not in your power, Tag, to give me what I want.
Tag is Biddy's maid. They're kind of more like friends and sisters than mistress and maid. Biddy uses Tag as her confidant, and they are constantly together and sharing things. And it's a really lovely relationship that she has with Tag, and a very important one, because she's so absent from having a sort of mother figure. I think it's quite interesting that in the film she never has a scene with her aunt, you know, they never sort of talk, whereas her and Tag are so close, and even though it's very difficult for her, she shares everything with Tag.
Tell me, Miss Biddy Bellair, if you do not like somebody better than old Sir Simon Loveit.
Hey-ho!
What's hey-ho, miss?
Oh, when I say hey-ho, it means yes.
Oh, very well. And this somebody is a young, handsome fellow.
Hey-ho!
And if you were once his, you'd be as merry as the best of us.
Hey-ho! Now help me out, Tag, as fast as you can.
In all these sort of 18th century plays, the servants are always my favourite characters, to be honest. They were always like sort of the driving force of the plots.
Why did you leave the army so abruptly and not give me time to fill my knapsack with the common necessary?
I was wild to get away. And as soon as I obtained my leave of absence, I thought every moment an age till I returned to the place where I first saw this young, charming, innocent, bewitching creature.
With £15,000 to her fortune. Strong motives, I must confess.
The captain and Puff have a wonderful kind of, obviously, master-servant relationship with each other, but the fact that Puff clearly doesn't want to do anything that he has to do.
I must insist upon an immediate compliance with my commands.
The devil is in these fiery young fellows.
I suppose the captain, all that's on his mind is finding the love of his life, and Puff's just more practical. He's just like, I need to sort out money for me and my wife so we can survive.
Angels and ministers of grace defend me. It can't be. It is that fretful porcupine. My wife. What shall I do? I'll try to avoid her.
Tag and Puff are married, and Puff disappeared, and Tag hasn't heard from her husband in 6 months.
Basement. What? My own dear Tag.
To me, not just because it's the part I'm playing and the relationship I'm involved in, but I think it's like the nicest relationship in the piece because they have to deal with the practicality of life. And then underlying that is a really strong relationship and a really strong romance. And everything's sort of going against them, but their attraction is still so strong that they're compelled to be together.
Oh, where dost thou live? Hereabouts? Give me a kiss and tell me where I may pay my duty to thee.
There I live, at that house.
What, that house there?
Yes, there, that house.
Huzzah!
And it turns out my wife is now working in the house of this girl.
My master is in love with your Miss Biddy. Over head, over ears, and she with him. Now, I know she is courted by some old fumbler, and the aunt is not against the match, but my master must marry the lady, and the old gentleman may go to the devil.
So I use my position as the servant of this captain to convince my wife that we can get these two together and we can all profit from it.
They work together to get Rhodophil and Biddy together, kind of for their own benefit.
I just now had a second conference with my old lady, and she was so convinced by my arguments that she returned instantly to the lawyers to forbid the drawing out of any writings at all. And she is determined never to thwart Miss Biddy's inclinations, and has left it to us to give the old gentleman his discharge at the next visit.
Shall I undertake the old dragon?
10 EA, take 2.
Partly through boredom of being sort of locked away in this enormous house and not being allowed out by her crazy aunt, Biddy sort of feels that she kind of needs to divert herself somehow. And so she loves the attention of these two gentlemen courters.
Who are equally ridiculous in completely different ways.
One of them is a fine, blustering man. His name is
Captain Flash, the undefeated. Here's my logic. My best argument is cart over arm. What's interesting about Flash is that he has one major drive, which is that he's amazing. Essentially. I profess blood, madam. I was bred up to it from a child. I studied the Book of Fate, and the camp is my university. I've attended the lectures of Prince Charles on the Rhine, Bathiani upon the Po, and extracted knowledge from the mouth of a cannon. His relationship with Biddy, essentially, is as something to own and to be conquered. And seeing as he's never really fought in a battle, he exerts what little power he does have to make himself feel better over a woman.
And who's the other, Trey?
quite another sort of man. His name is Fribble.
This is our director with his makeup on. You don't feel like you can direct until you look like that, do you?
No, exactly.
Helps.
I'm not actually acting today.
Mr. Fribble, your servant.
Miss Biddy, your slave.
Fribble is quite bonkers.
Oh, ice. So cold, so hard as I, still warmed and softened by your eyes.
It's an amazing character to play because you can be as big and ridiculous as you like, and the bigger and more ridiculous he is, the more perfect he is to sort of highlight the difference between Flash, who is his rival. Flash is a sort of a manly man, soldier, yes, completely the opposite to Fribble.
Hell and berries! Come on now, savage! Come on! No! Come on, rascal!
What's the matter, my dear?
If you won't fight, here's one that will.
So the captain comes back, runs off the two pathetic suitors, and then has a final showdown with her third one, old Sir Simon.
So, you have left the regiment and the honourable employment of fighting for your country to come home and cut your father's throat.
His father, Tag. Turns out that Sir Simon is actually the captain's father.
A strange father and son kind of dynamic that happens between them, but in the end it all kind of, well, you'll see.
The original play by David Garrick was written in 1747.
David Garrick was a man of many, many talents. He was a great actor in a time of great actors. And the other string to his bow was that he could write plays.
Its official title is an afterpiece.
An afterpiece was a short play that followed the main 5-act production and was designed to extend the evening's performance.
So people who would come and watch like sort of the end of the Hamlet, then they'd have a bit of juggling whilst all the actors ran off, put different wigs on, and came back and did an afterpiece.
So Garrick, of course, wrote a number of these afterpieces, and Miss in Her Teens was one of these afterpieces, and actually it was the best afterpiece.
So the section of where you all have your little bits of dialogue on tape. Adapting it was interesting.
We did the play originally. We suddenly had to bring these characters to screen.
It's always slightly different on screen because you have to take it down a little bit, because in the theatre it was much bigger. Slightly more difficult, I would say, because you don't have an audience response, of course, when you're filming.
Because you're sort of plonking yourself onto a location that's so amazing, you start to think more about the details, about the period that it's in, and about the sort of the atmosphere of it is more interesting.
Being in such an amazing location as Roxton and in the grounds, it brought a different feeling to the whole thing and really brought it to life.
The main room was called the Regency Room. Most of the house and the gardens are of that period, so to put the actors actually in situ and not in the studio, it sort of helped the actors to be in that world.
What's amazing about working with Matt is that he allows the actor to find his own way, and is a director in the true sense of the word, that he will absolutely use what you bring and then guide you just to find more clarity.